Hey, welcome to the Riverside. This is Avett's story about the Robins and the Bluejays. We live on the end of a dirt road, which means it's usually pretty quiet around the yard. Whitaker and I like to lay in the road at the end of the driveway so we can see what's happening or if anyone's coming down. Jig doesn't love it when we go running down the road to visit people with other dogs, and he always makes us come back. And then he draws a line across the road while telling us not to cross the line. It's kind of funny because he draws it and tells us not to cross it. But within a few days, I can't see the line anymore because cars have worn it away or the rain came and washed it away. Regardless, it's no longer there until he draws it again, as far as I'm concerned. We also have a pretty nice yard to lay around in with a bunch of stone around a pond that we can drink out of and a bunch of pretty flowers. Yesterday, Jig was planting the garden and Mama was helping to clean up the yard, so we were laying around enjoying the sunshine. Jig has 3 raised beds that have vegetables in them, as well as an old boat that's full of dirt that he plants with vegetables as well. There's even a spot for another boat that's next door at the neighbor's house. It's a white boat that is leaning up against the house and has been for a few years now. Jig decided to turn it into another garden bed, so a few weeks ago we went over to bring it back to our house. Jig and Mama put blankets on top of the car and we went behind the house to get the boat while Whitaker and I explored the yard. Then I heard Jig say, "Did you see that?" And Mama said, "Yeah, a robin just flew out of the nest on the top of the boat." I always like seeing robins because it means that winter is ending and soon it will be warm. Whitaker and I went behind the house to see if we could see the robin, and it was perched in a tree saying, "Don't mess with my eggs." Jig looked in the nest and sure enough, there were eggs in it. They took the blanket off the top of the car and must have decided to come back for the boat later when the robin was done with it. A few weeks later, we went next door while Jig was mowing the lawn over there. When he finished, he went around the back of the house to check on the robin, and I followed him because I am fascinated by birds. This time, he walked over to the nest, and there was no mama robin around. He held his camera up to take a picture into the nest, and just as he did this, a tiny little bird's head popped out of the nest. Needless to say, we got out of there quickly so the mama robin would come back to take care of her little chicks. I can only imagine how angry she would have been with Jig had she seen him sneaking up on her sleeping babies. So after Jig finished planting all the beds today, he told Mama that he was ready for the robin to move out of the nest so he could fill the boat with some dirt and plant the rest of the vegetables. Whitaker's really excited because Jig planted 20 pea plants, which is exciting because Whitaker's favorite snack is a sugar snap pea. Not more than 5 minutes after he said this, a robin flew out of the tree and landed in the bird bath next to the pond. I think I was the first one to see it, and I watched it stand on the edge of the bath for a few seconds before it slid down into the bird bath. I'd never seen a bird put its head under the water, but for the next 5 minutes I watched as the robin dove into the water, then came out and shook itself off. I asked it why it kept diving under the water, and it told me that there was so much pollen in the air that its feathers were feeling a little sticky. I'd never really thought about it before, but this made sense because there were so many white puffies floating all over the place, and whenever the wind would blow, yellow dust flew out of the pine trees. I wondered if this was the same robin from next door, and if it was done with the boat. Jig saw the robin in the bath and said he wondered if this was the robin coming to tell him that it was almost done with the boat. Eventually, the robin flew away, and it did fly in the direction of the neighbor's house, so maybe we'll be getting the boat soon. After the robin flew away, I was getting kind of sleepy, so I took a little nap for a bit. And when I woke up, there was a different bird in the bird bath. This time it was a blue jay, and it was also very happy to give itself a bath. After a few minutes, it flew up into a tree, and another blue jay swooped down and started taking a bath. This one's feathers weren't as blue and pretty as the first, and I wondered if it just had more pollen stuck to them. I asked if its feathers would get as blue as the first blue jay's, and it told me that in time they would, because it would have the same blue pattern as its dad when it grew up. Both of them were pretty, and I was glad to watch them take their baths. While one would take a bath, the other would perch on one of the poles Jig put up in the yard for the peas to grow on. The garden is looking pretty, and the birds are enjoying the baths. It's probably a good time to take another nap. Thanks for listening.